The Oklahoma State Cowboys were a team that this past transfer portal cycle really got ravaged, didn't they? Apologies for whatever my green screen is doing behind me, but the Oklahoma State Cowboys lost a lot to the transfer portal, including their many-a-year starting quarterback. But this team does get a lot of talent through the portal. A lot of nice talent comes back. And if there's one thing that I've learned about watching Oklahoma State the past couple years and my lifetime as a college football fan, never count out the man on your screen and head coach Mike Gundy. Will the Oklahoma State Cowboys be able to overcome all their transfer portal losses, or is this a team that's going to start reeling under their beloved head coach? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams this summer, which means I am doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. But there are more ways than that you can help me support my channel. You're doing one by watching this video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you can think of to help interact and support the channel. Whatever you guys are willing and able to do, I greatly appreciate, and I thank you for. Well, let's talk about the team coming out of Stillwater, Oklahoma in 2023. That, of course, is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Hey, how do we do preview predictions around here? We take a look at a roster overview, look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Cowboy football schedule and giving it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, let's talk about the Oklahoma State Cowboys in 2023. Again, this is the team that ended up getting ravaged by the portal, and I teased it a little bit, but probably the main guy that you saw leave this Oklahoma State team from seasons past was Spencer Sanders. 2,642 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and was the team's second leading rusher last year with 391 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, which was tied for the team lead last season. Really, really solid starter. He's going over to be in a absolutely loaded quarterback room with the Ole Miss Rebels. Who's going to be starting options for the Cowboys in 2023? Well, some returners are Garrett Rangel and Gunnar Gundy, both of which had playing time last year, but threw more interceptions than touchdowns last season. Enter a transfer, former Texas Tech and Michigan player in Alan Bowman. When he is healthy, I think his ceiling is higher than anybody else in this quarterback room. If it was my decision, I would probably end up going with Alan Bowman to be that starting quarterback. Oklahoma State fans, let me know what the talk is around camp in the comment section below. But again, your guess is as good as mine for who starts for this Oklahoma State team in 2023. I think it should be Bowman. Not necessarily going to surprise me to see Rangel or Gundy strut out there first snap of 2023, though. In the running back room, your leading rusher does leave. My apologies. Dominic Richardson is gone. 543 yards and 8 touchdowns for him last year. That's some good production leaving this team that it was really hard to run the football last year. Only 3.4 yards per carry for this rushing attack last season. However, you do get some good returners coming back. Jaden Nixon, Ollie Gordon return, and you get a 3-star transfer from Michigan State in Elijah Collins. Wide receiver room, you do lose Braden Johnson, who was, your team's 3rd leading receiver. Bryson Green was your team's 2nd leading receiver, and John Paul Richardson, 2nd on the team in catches, your team's 4th leading receiver. All those guys had over 500 yards receiving for this team last year. You lose almost 1,600 yards of receiving production off those 3 guys alone. Ouch, that hurts. However, your leading receiver does come back. Brennan Presley at 813 yards led the team with 67 catches and 2 touchdowns last season. Blaine Green and Jaden Bray will also be coming back to this team as well as some other options in the wide receiver room. But some transfers coming over. Deshaun Stribling comes over from Washington State, and Arlen Bruce comes over from the Iowa Hawkeyes, both of those 4-star rated transfers, according to 24/7 Sports. When you take a look in the tight end room, Quentin Stewart is going to be gone. Not really a team that used the tight end room all that much last season. Quentin Stewart comes back. My apologies. I apologize to Oklahoma State fans ever reading the line below it on the offensive line. Quentin Stewart comes back, and you get a transfer in Josiah Johnson. Should be pretty solid tight end room for this team if they end up using it this year. Offensive line-wise, Hunter using it in the pass-catching aspect. On the offensive line, here's where you lose a guy. Hunter Woodard is gone. You get a 3-star transfer coming over in Dalton Cooper. And then Preston Wilson, Joe Mikulski, and Jason Brooks come back to the offensive line. Defensively, what does this team lose? Well, let's start, of course, with the defensive line. Tyler Lacey had 27 tackles, 3 sacks last year. He's gone. Brock Martin was 2nd on the team with 4.5 sacks and the top 10 tackler with 43 of them. You'll lose him, as well as Sion Ossie and I will pronounce this name wrong, so I apologize, Samuela Tuihalamaka are going to be gone off of that defensive line. When you take a look at who's coming back on the defensive line, Colin Oliver was the team's sack leader, did have 5 sacks. He comes back, as well as Nathan Latu, and some transfers coming over. Anthony Goodlow is coming over by way of Tulsa. He's a 3-star rated transfer. And then you also have Justin Kirkland coming over by way of Utah Tech, what used to be known as Dixie State, coming over to the team as well. So some solid transfers coming in to help bolster up the defensive line. And the linebacking unit, yeah, okay, you lose a lot of talent here. Mason Cobb is gone, had 96 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception for this team last year. That is a big loss for this defense. And Lamont Bishop also gone as well, 29 tackles, with the top 10 tackler on this team last season. You do return, however, your 3rd leading tackler in Xavier Benson, 76 tackles last season, and Nicholas Martin comes back, as well as getting some transfers and some more returners in that linebacking room as well. Defensive back-wise, your best defensive back, leading tackler, and led the team with 6 interceptions, and Jason Taylor is gone again, 99 tackles, 7 passes defended, 6 interceptions. Your leader in passes defended last year was Jabbar Muhammad. He is also gone. Top 6 tackler on this team was 6 with 48 tackles, again, 9 passes defended, and Thomas Harper will be gone from this defensive back room as well. You do return some more leading tacklers, though. Kendall Daniels, Lyric Rawls, Corey Black, and Cam Smith are all going to be returners to this defensive secondary. Kendall Daniels had 3 interceptions to his name last season. When you take a look at this Oklahoma State team, a lot of good talent here. Yes, they lost a lot to the portal, but Mike Gundy's going to have this team ready to go, and there's a lot to work with in Stillwater this season. I've said his name a million times. Your head coach is Mike Gundy, offensive coordinator Casey Dunn, defensive coordinator Brian Nardo. As we take a look at the Oklahoma State Cowboys football schedule in 2023, here is how things go down. Any game at home is going to be underlined, and any game on the road will be in italics or the slanted text. Any game in green is a game I see the Cowboys being able to win easily. Any game in yellow is a game where, hey, the other team will put up a fight, or it's a very close competitive game, but Oklahoma State will be able to win, and red is a loss. So let's start predicting the Cowboys in 2023. I think they beat Central Arkansas first game of the year. Not too much trouble there for the Cowboys. But then a very interesting game. You got to go on the road and play Arizona State. Now, Arizona State has a ton of overhaul to this roster. There are a lot of transfers coming in. Granted, they are all talented transfers, but a first-year head coach at any level, former Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, is in there. And I think it's going to take a year or two to really get things settled down in Tempe. And maybe I am sleeping on the Sun Devils team, but I just do not see them pulling out a lot of wins. I see them being very close, very competitive in a lot of games. Even this one here. Here, I'll flash my other prediction. You just saw it for the next game. But as far as the game in Tempe goes, I think Oklahoma State's going to come out of there, pull out a very close win, and then beating South Alabama in the 3rd game of the year, I think, is what the Cowboys will be doing there as well. So 3 wins to start out the year. Then you got to go on the road, play the Iowa State Cyclones, and I think this is where you end up dropping a game right there. Look, Iowa State going to be a very, very talented team. When you take a look at the Cyclones this upcoming season, you lose Xavier Hutchinson and a lot of pieces on defense, yes. However, there are some nice transfers coming in. Hunter Deckers is back at quarterback. Jareel Brock is back at running back. And early in the season, a lot of the transfers still trying to find their roles and settle into this system. I think Iowa State's going to catch Oklahoma State here. That's going to be a very competitive team in Ames, Iowa this upcoming season. I think Iowa State takes the Oklahoma State and gets the win there in Ames. A really early bye week for Oklahoma State, and then you move on to the reigning Big 12 champs in the Kansas State Wildcats, where I do think you suffer your 2nd loss of the season. I think Kansas State's going to be a very, very talented team this year. Yes, they did lose Deuce Vaughn, Malik Knowles, a lot of pieces in that secondary, and some key contributors in the front 7 on defense as well. But for the most part, there is a lot coming back to this Kansas State team. And then when you take a look at that offense with Will Howard at quarterback, still a lot of solid options there at running back and a wide receiver. That's a team that can absolutely push to win the Big 12 for the 2nd consecutive year. I think Oklahoma State, again, needing some more time to adjust after that bye week. I think they're going to be ready to play. It'll be a close game being played at home on a Friday night for Oklahoma State. I just think Kansas State will get the better of them there as the Cowboys suffer their 2nd loss of 2023, but they bounce back and beat the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, watch out for this Kansas team. If you cannot contain Jalen Daniels, it is going to be a very, very hard task to beat Kansas in 2023. Jalen Daniels is going to be a player that, if he doesn't find anything through the air, will use his legs, and he's got a lot of nice pieces in the wide receiver room, running back room. Only trouble I'm having is that Kansas defense really needs to show massive improvement from last year. Really hard time defending outside the numbers for that Kansas team last season, and if that can improve, there's going to be a much better Kansas team offensively. I think they're going to be great defensively. I think they need some work, and I think that's where Oklahoma State offensively is going to be able to give them. They're going to be able to get them if that quarterback play is there and it's solid. That's a very good wide receiver room that I think will be able to stretch Kansas out, giving Oklahoma State the win. West Virginia, I've said it before, is a team that I do not see being super competitive in the Big 12 Conference this year. They're losing JT Daniels, a couple other key pieces, and that's going to be a team where, hey, maybe Neil Brown gets fired. I don't think he's the right guy for the job. But there are going to be some wins this year, and this may be a point, at least where I'm predicting the game right before Neil Brown gets let go. That's just, I'm telling you what I'm predicting here. First game, possibly with an interim head coach, or maybe Neil Brown is still there. Who knows? Regardless who the head coach is, there is some solid talent there, and I think West Virginia is going to be able to be competitive and pull off some games. So quite simply, I'm just calling an upset right here against the Oklahoma State, or against the West Virginia Mountaineers. I think the Oklahoma State Cowboys will go on the road and lose that game. But they'll bounce back nicely with a win over Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a team that I think is going to struggle first year in the Big 12 Conference. You're losing Luke Fickell, and with him, a bunch of talent leaves, especially a lot in that wide receiver room. In fact, you just lose pretty much, you lose a lot of talent from a lot of position. What am I trying to say? You just lose a lot of talent off of that Bearcat team from last season. That's what I'm trying to say. Head coaching hire was not a bad one. You bring in Scott Satterfield, pretty solid option, but I think it's going to take a couple years for him to adjust to life in the Big 12 as that head coach. And Cincinnati will not be beating the Oklahoma State Cowboys in 2023. However, they make it competitive. Bedlam. Going to be a very interesting game this year. I think Oklahoma State has what it takes to take it to Oklahoma, especially if that Sooner defense does not improve. It was statistically bad in a lot of categories last year, and it's got to get a whole lot better to be a real or to be a college football playoff contender in 2023. However, that offense makes them a Big 12 contender, and I think will be the reason why they beat this Oklahoma State team. Oklahoma State, I think, lost too much defensively to be able to keep up with this Oklahoma offense led by Dylan Gabriel. They got a lot of solid options there. So I think Oklahoma State going to struggle defensively in this game, and I think is what will lead the team in Norman to win the last Bedlam for maybe quite some time before the Sooners move on to the SEC. I do think the Cowboys also lose to the UCF Knights. There's a lot of talent on that team with John Rice Plumlee, a lot of solid options there in the running back and wide receiver room. And defensively, there's a lot of studs on that team. Even though they do lose some good talent, life in the Big 12, I think, is going to be not necessarily a super easy transition, but it'll be a fluid transition for UCF. They're going to be very competitive. They're going to be a tough out, and I got them beating the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But I got Oklahoma State bouncing back here in their last two games. I think Houston's going to be a team that struggles this year. Alton McCaskill, Clayton Tune, Nathaniel Dell, all of them are gone off the offensive end. That's running back, quarterback, wide receiver, to be frank. Again, I'm not sure what order, but really good players. Defensively, they lose a lot, and I got Oklahoma State being able to beat BYU as well. BYU is going to be a very competitive team in the Big 12 this year. But I see Oklahoma State being able to pull off this last win in a game where both teams have already clinched the bowl game. Just a matter to try to get to that 7-win season, which I think Oklahoma State does. 7-5 is my record for this team. Can definitely see it being a lot better, but you lost a lot of talent through the portal. I think this is going to be a very solid team under Mike Gundy here, and Oklahoma State has their way to a 7-win season. That's going to do it for my talk on the Cowboys in 2023. Hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.